Good evening, everyone. We're going to commence with the meeting. It's around 6 o'clock now. If we could just stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Adequate notice of the meeting was advertised in the Asbury Park Press on Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, and by posting a notice in Fort Career Post Office and local Harbor Post Office, by filing a copy of the notice with the Lacey Township Clerk as required by the Open Public Meeting Act. Roll call, please.
Mr. Armato?
I'm here.
Mrs. Claus?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Present.
Mrs. McAvoy? Mrs. Downing? Mr. Scanlon?
Here.
Mr. Polino?
Present, thank you. Report of the superintendent, Dr. Pereira.
I don't have much to report tonight other than to just thank the board and Sharon specifically on all the work that has gone into this health benefits conversation. It's been a lot of meetings, a lot of planning, and a lot of collaboration. So I just want to thank you for that, and I'm glad to see that we're adopting our board goals and our district goals. You know, we're a little behind in approving these, but we've already started work, obviously, on these goals. They're good goals, solid goals, and we are looking forward to continuing working on them. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Dr. Pereira. Okay, so we're going to take public comment. So the public comment tonight, being this is a special meeting, is going to be for agenda items only. So any audience member wishing to make a comment will raise his or her hand, and when called upon, state their name, address, affiliation, intention to make a statement. Comments will be addressed to the board president. Comments are made on one issue at a time. Comments are made limited to 5 minutes. No audience member shall be recognized twice until all who have wished to comment have been recognized. And this portion of the meeting is for public comments only. There will be no questions answered. The purpose of this board meeting is to perform our business in public. Everyone is entitled to a public comment. If there is a question to the board, there is an established chain of command. With that said, we're going to open up public comment. Anyone? Yes, ma'am, come on down.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Rand, and I'm a school counselor at Lacey Township High School. I've been an employee for 26 years. My children have gone through the school district. My grandchildren are now attending in the Lacey school system. I'm speaking to you tonight to urge you to continue to provide us with the best health care that you can, which is Blue Cross and Blue Shield. The numbers that are demonstrated in the report tonight, the difference is really minuscule, and I can tell you the impact is tremendous. I myself have had some health issues that if I had not had the availability of choosing the healthcare provider that I wanted, I would not have received the best care, and my doctors that treated me do not accept the alternate plan that you're proposing. In my family, I have a family member that has a very serious neurological disease. Though the hospital network that treats him is covered by the other plan that you're proposing, the doctors within that hospital network individually are not covered by the alternate plan. So I'm asking you, every day you entrust us with Lacey's most precious asset, and that is our children. I am asking you to extend to us the same level of care that we as educators and parents and members of the community extend to your children. And that means providing us with the best health care possible so that we can provide the education and the social and emotional support that our children need. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you. Anyone else? Come on down. just, while this young lady steps down, just so everybody knows, I don't know if you had a copy of the agenda or you were privy to that before you came in tonight. So if you notice on the agenda, that we are looking to approve the Blue Cross tonight. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Sally DiPaola, and I think I work here at the high school. I'm the French teacher with the British accent and the Italian last name. Okay, I'm really encouraged to hear that, and I'm really encouraged to hear that because I come from a very unique position that I grew up in a country where I didn't have to worry about my health care. I didn't. When I went to the doctors, they just said, "What's your name?" So they knew what to call me. It wasn't until my own son seized and he was rushed to Jersey Shore as a baby at 6 weeks old, that I really understood how important this matter is, and I never had to worry because I had Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. When I saw this was up for discussion, I felt sick to my stomach because I just couldn't imagine ever being in a position where I couldn't get the best care imaginable for my baby boy. And I just thank every day that my parents never had that fear. And I hope going forward, my son will never have that fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we're going to move on. So we were going to have our board committee reports that we postponed the last meeting because of our marathon meeting. So we're going to do it this month, but unfortunately, Mrs. McAvoy and Mrs. Downing are not here, but we will have finance by Mrs. Claus.
Policy.
Policy. Sorry,
That's
I was
okay.
looking at Mr. Scanlon when I said finance.
Okay, we had our meeting Wednesday, October 12th. It was a short meeting. Myself, Mr. Peters, Mr. Armato subbed in, and Dr. Pereira was there. We had a conversation, a presentation by Synergistics, and they're here tonight. So we spent a good hour in discussion, and we're going to be discussing it again, going over more questions, and hopefully we'll have some answers too, as well. We have two policies for revision. Policy 0163, quorum. The committee discussed this policy as it relates to the revision. The bylaw 0163 establishes the minimum number of board members that make a quorum of the board to conduct official board business. The bylaw guide 0163 also addresses when and how the doctrine of necessity shall be invoked. The board does not have a quorum to participate in the discussion of the matter or act upon the matter when too many board members have a legal conflict. In this situation, the doctrine of necessity, when invoked appropriately, allows the board to act upon the matter involving the conflicting board members. Bylaw Guide 0163 has been revised to provide additional details and procedures when the board invokes the doctrine of necessity. Advisory opinion A11-96 indicates the board does not have to adopt the resolution to invoke the doctrine of necessity and may announce the doctrine of necessity has been invoked. However, School Ethics in 2018 Commission resolution on invoking the doctrine of necessity indicates the board should adopt. And we actually did that last month for a first read. The second one we went over was 0164, and that's the conduct of board meeting. The committee reviewed the policy as it relates to revising the time and will resume from 7:30 to 7 o'clock. So we're gonna do a second read next meeting, and then we should start at 7 o'clock instead of 7:30 moving forward. And that's all we had. It was a very short meeting. Any questions? We're good? Thank you.
All righty, thank you, Mrs. Claus. Okay, with that, we're gonna go to resolutions, under new business. Oh, wait, I wrote the wrong thing down. Yes, you're right, Mr. Scanlon. I was crossing out things. Yeah, board comments, so let's start down. Mr. Mata, can you hear us down there?
I can hear you.
Go ahead.
Not much to say, just, I guess when you hear us vote tonight, I just want you to think about the people that really put in a lot of work on this. So, this board had, I think, at the end of the day, the easy part. We just got to review everything and say yes or no. But the work that Ms. Sylvia put in and Dr. Pereira put in to make sure that we flipped every stone and looked under everywhere to figure out how we can get this done. You know, a lot of thanks to them. There's a lot of long hours on their part. And a lot of going back and forth on this board, and I think together, we came together as a group and as a Board of Education, and I think we made the right decision, and I'm really excited to hear, you know, it all come out a little bit later. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming. And yes, we do know that you guys do great work, and we're here to support you, and I hope you understand that. It's not an easy world right now to do the things that we have to do day in, day out to make sure that we manage a budget and all the other things that come along with doing this, but we got your back, and we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that you're happy and that you're secure in the job that you guys do. Again, I say thank you for all you've done for me, my kids, and everybody else's kids in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amato. Ms. Claus?
Yeah, I just want to just thank everyone who came out last month to just tell us your stories. It did have an effect on us, me in particular, and I just want to thank you for communicating, and I feel communication's key, so please keep coming, and, you know, it did change our minds, so thank you for participating last month. That's it.
Mr. Peters?
Thanks for coming out. Last meeting, as far as everybody coming up on the microphone and stories, it didn't affect me, only because I was 100% against Aetna before we even went in here to the vote. But I'm glad you guys came up here and spoke. Been asked some of the board members, I said absolutely not. I did my due diligence research and talked to some other people that had problems with Aetna, and I was 100% against it from the beginning. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Teachers, enjoy your break, recoup, come back and get ready to hit it hard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scanlon?
Good evening. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did hear what was said. The original, when the state increased the health costs and we were presented with the different programs, as a retired educator, I have Aetna with Medicare and didn't realize at that point what a difference that is between the Aetna with Medicare and the Aetna that you would have had. And when I did find out what the difference was, I would have bet, if I was at last month's meeting, right in with Mr. Peters saying, no, my goal was never to give you a poor plan. I thought that it was the same as what I had. And when I found out it wasn't, I then went and made sure, I checked around and made sure that what you do want is Blue Cross Blue Shield, because I wasn't gonna put my foot in my mouth again and vote for the wrong plan. And from what I understand, what we're doing tonight is what you wished for, what you needed, and what works for you. And I was 100% behind making that a reality as soon as I realized what the difference was. So it's going to happen tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to thank Ms. Sylvia and Dr. Pereira for putting all this together and their hard work getting all this. So the intent was never to try to give you a plan that wasn't equal to or better than the plan you already have. The fact that maybe the network is not the same, the plan is still equal to and everything except for maybe the network. Someone who has had Blue Cross and Blue Shield for 28 years, and then this January I was turned over to Aetna without my say. I found that really my plan is the same. I lost a doctor here or there, and that's going to happen with any change. So I don't agree that it's not a better plan. It's not an equal to or better plan. You know, one thing is when we started this, we knew we had to get out of state health benefits because of the 15.6% increase. And Aetna, looking at the plans and all the hard work, basically would have given us a dollar figure to work with within our budget, and staring down a $2 million deficit next year with the states taken away from us. This was a good alternative. You know, in a long scheme of things, you know, we have to balance what's good for our employees and balance what's good for the taxpayer and what's good for the school district. We're a business. And anybody who sits up here and says to you that this is not a business and your taxes will never go up, they're lying to you, because everything goes up on our end. And if it goes up on our end, we don't have a heavy flow of revenue coming in, and we have to, look at other places, which we are doing tonight after we're done with this, to make up that revenue that's lost and stuff that doesn't come in. So I don't see it as it was a bad decision to offer Aetna. It's just that the board members, changed their mind, and that's why we have seven of us. So with that said, but one thing I do want to say, this is not a permanent deal. So, in 18 months, that's the contract, 18 months is going to be revisited, because we don't know what's going to happen with increases in 18 months. So if there's another 15, 20% increase in Blue Cross, there is a possibility that they could be looking at other avenues again for change. So just to let you know that this is an 18-month contract for Blue Cross. All right, with that said, we're going to vote on our resolutions. Okay, resolutions. Under new business, 1 and 2, board superintendent and district goals. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. Discussion. Anybody have any questions?
I'm happy with this.
Okay,
You happy with this?
all good?
Yep.
All right. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. Number 3, health benefits. Motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second it, Peters.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
No. Okay. With that, we're going to move to a board workshop. We have Synergistic here, a company that's, it's a facilities company that looks at our, all our, did I do something? Yeah, it didn't look like you missed something again. So this company looks at all our utilities, water, gas, sewer, electric, solar, and they look at where we can save, where we're overusing, and so forth and such with. So they were presented in committees, and our committees wanted to speak together with them. Yes, sir?
Well, go ahead. When you're done, I just have one comment.
So we're gonna open up a discussion with them. So this is for the board. There's no comments from the public on this. This is just the board with the company. There's gonna be a presentation, and if the board has questions with our guests, Lynn and Mary Ellen from Synergistic, we will discuss with them, okay? And there'll be no action taken tonight. There's no vote on this. This is just an open workshop for us to have a question and answer type of thing, and if we go forward with it, there'll be action taken at the next board meeting, which is November 16th, I believe, yes? 17th.
And, Madam,
President?
no, well, would you, the business administrator, the result of the vote was on the healthcare benefits was not unanimous?
No.
It was what? And did it carry?
Yes, it
I said,
carried.
well, I just want to make sure that should be announced.
Yeah.
It's announced. The
Yeah,
vote
the
was
motion
4-1 and it carried.
Yes.
It was not made clear.
You're right, it wasn't.
Now it's clear.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I apologize, I thought you guys knew that, but
No, it should be
you're good.
announced.
You're good.
That's
When you
right.
hear 4 yeses, it's good.
Yeah. Sorry, I just assumed. I should not assume, right? All right, I apologize.
Are we gonna go there? Are you present? Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
it'll
so
be up here.
it's gonna come over here?
Yep.
Okay, so, let's go.
I don't know.
So thank you, Dr. Pereira, for having us back. Thank you to the board. We've got a chance to speak with all of you previously, so we're here just to give a quick overview, highlight a few points, and then, of course, we're available for questions on everything that we're presenting. So just real quick, we've been in business for 36 years. In the center there, the staff that we bring to the district includes about 40 energy specialists, 8 professional engineers. These are subject matter experts that you have unlimited access to over the life of the program. Our goal is to optimize your existing equipment. We do not sell equipment. You get full access to the proprietary software that we have for the life of the program, and the combination is what has proven over the 36 years to deliver the energy-saving results to school districts. We take a holistic and comprehensive approach to all of the buildings and components of the district, from irrigation to boilers. With your input, we respond to current conditions. We're going to protect the assets of the district, and we're going to ensure the optimal learning environment for the students and the teachers and staff of the district. So people, technology, and process is what it comes down to. There's going to be a dedicated energy specialist, your employee, which would be on a part-time basis. We help you identify the right candidate. We train and support the energy specialist in conjunction with your team. And again, the efforts are supplemented by our engineers and technicians. Our access, so one other item that I haven't mentioned before is that comfort issues are going to be managed by the energy specialist, so that frees up your maintenance and operations staff to do things that are on their punch list and work through their day without the distractions of those comfort calls, and the energy specialist will be getting to the root of the problem for any repeat calls that we're getting, or that the district is getting. It is a 5-year term where we are able to fully develop a culture of sustainability. And then this is just a quick highlight of a couple of districts, 2 in New Jersey and 1 in Pennsylvania, and some of the results that they've seen. The leadership team here in Lacey Township has reached out to their counterparts at some of these districts and others to learn about their experiences. And we appreciate that due diligence that has taken place. And then the estimated energy savings matrix that we've shared with you previously is outlined here over the course of the 5 years. Again, we discount our fee in the beginning years so that you can realize your savings sooner. And our conservative estimate is that we could see upwards of $730,000 returned to the district for use for better student outcomes in whatever format you see fit. Actually, I should just leave that one up there. I'm going to ask my colleague Lynn to join me, and he and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Is my standing down here okay? Fine, perfect. Mary Ellen wanted me to stand back there so you guys wouldn't have to look at me. And Mr. Armato, you were talking about maybe needing a translator or something when you were in Australia. The other reason Mary Ellen will stand here is that she may need to translate for me. If I used to try to hide my accent, but I kind of give up on it now. It doesn't work. Let me start off, though. First of all, I want to thank you for the due diligence that you're putting into this. I know that there are questions. I'm looking forward to fielding them. As I may have mentioned to some of you before, I've been with the company for 19 years, so I'm a little bit biased when it comes to how I feel about what we do, because I've never worked for an organization where I could go to bed with a clear conscience every night. I'm not ashamed of jobs that I've had before coming to work for this company, but once again, the laudability of the mission, what we do, and what we've been doing, is nothing like, I never had that before coming to this organization. So, but enough of the personal stuff on my side. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm here again to answer your questions and deal with any concerns that you might have, and please shoot away.
Let's start. So we're looking at the savings, energy program savings, estimated 193,252. Nice delta, nice incremental growth year over year. The energy specialist stipend, that is our part-time employee that is coming out of the savings, right? Then is your cost, 48,000, and then total it all up. That's a synergistic program investment. That is what?
That total
The
synergistic
85,000.
investment, that bottom line, I think totals up to about 608,000.
Okay, okay. So now,
You're gonna invest roughly 608,000.
so that's out of our pocket, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so out of our pocket, we're gonna give the 37 and the 40, 85 grand incremental, you're gonna get incremental growth year over year in the hopes that we save 730, are we really saving the 730,000 then?
We're actually projecting that you're gonna gross in savings. If you look at that top line, energy program gross savings, and add that up across, that's a little over 1.3 million is what we're estimating you will save in gross, so that after you invest in the program, roughly 608,000, you will net in savings 730,000.
Okay, besides having this great job here, as a board member, I'm also in sales, and I've never used the word guaranteed. I hear you guys throw that around a lot.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't mind, and if I'm not taking too much time, please let me know. Can
You might be
take us-
asking questions we're gonna ask.
Okay, can you take us through how do you guarantee something like this?
We true up at the end of each year from the standpoint of we're guaranteeing that you will not spend more than you save, or we have to write you a check for the difference. In other words, 37 and 48 adds up to that $85,000. You know, we're actually predicting that you're going to save 193,000 in that first year. If a worst case scenario developed and you only save 80,000, but you invested 85,000 in the program, we have to write you a check for that $5,000.
That's the guarantee.
That's the guarantee. You cannot spend more than you save. And our point being is that synergistic program investment line, that's money that's currently budgeted in your utility budget. You're going to pay that either to a utility company, or you're going to invest it in a synergistic program that's designed to give you a return on that investment. And that's what that bottom line, 730,000 is. And I'm sorry, Ms. Claus, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so when you're saying the guarantee, I have a few questions on that because it's in the contract too. So you're not including the money that we have to put out for the part-time person?
Yes, we are.
You are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so the guarantee, what is substantially performing its responsibilities? It's coming up 2 times in this contract. So what do you mean by that? And then is that going to be written out more clearly in the contract? Because if we don't meet your requirements, substantially performing its responsibilities. So
Yeah, and there's a reason that we use the word substantial,
Yeah.
and not complete, and not total, because we fully expect that there will be recommendations that we might make that you as a leadership team determine don't fit your needs, your district. And no one's going to force something down your throat. The idea, though, is that this won't work if there's not a mutual commitment on both the part of Synergistic and the school district to do all that we can within reason to reduce your energy and water usage as much as is, again, reasonably possible without compromising the integrity of your learning environment, compromising the comfort of your teachers and your students when they should be teaching and when they should be learning. And going back to not compromising the integrity of your buildings. You know, all of your buildings are not alike. I mean, I look at this facility and, you know, this is, again, very, very well cared for, and it looks like it's probably one that might be towards the top from the standpoint of being maybe a bit more modern and maybe a little easier to control. On the other hand, you may have some other buildings that are older, maybe don't have the same kind of equipment. There won't be the same advantages when it comes to managing them from a mechanical standpoint that you might have here. We take all of those things into consideration. While we have a process, we have a plan that is somewhat generic, it actually has to be customized, tailored for each individual facility to ensure that, once again, going back to what I was saying before, we don't compromise the integrity of the facility. Maybe a more specific example is we come into winter months, We know that we don't need to operate the facility at an occupied temperature 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we do know that it needs to be at a good, comfortable, occupied temperature when teachers start arriving and students start arriving. Well, for some buildings, that means that you have to start heating that facility up maybe earlier than you do other buildings. That's where, again, some of the customization comes into play, where some of the heightened management around energy usage and the way we work comes into play.
So then, when are we gonna see that, like, what your plan is? Is it before we sign or after? So, let's just say you pick a temperature 68 degrees, and everyone's complaining it's too cold. But that's your temperature, that you now have control, because it says in the contract that you control everything, right? So we don't go against the guarantee.
Right.
So what you're saying though is if we don't like it, then the guarantee's off.
We're not going to arbitrarily set temperatures. We're going to share with you in advance what we think the occupied and unoccupied set points for each individual facility needs to be. And there is a general rule of thumb that we use. Occupied set points during the spring or summer might be 78 degrees, generically speaking. During the wintertime, it might be closer to 68 degrees. Unoccupied, typically during the summer months or spring months when no one else is around, we'd like to see temperatures go up to 85 degrees in the facility. During the wintertime, we'd like to see the temperatures go down to as much as 55 degrees. That is the generic set points that we shoot for. We actually recommend that our clients adopt that as a general guideline, and I emphasize guideline, and not a hard and fast, it has to absolutely be this way for each facility, because each facility will be different. Some of your facilities won't be able to handle a setback during the winter down to 55 degrees. The nature of the age of those facilities, the way the pipes are situated, the way insulation is in that facility, we may need to keep it warmer just to ensure that we don't run the risk of a freeze. Same thing during the summer months. 85 degrees may work fine, but if it's a facility where we can't adequately ventilate during those that setback period, we don't want to create an indoor air quality issue. We don't want to create an environment where we know that there's the potential for creating that four-letter word, which I'll not mention. Yes, sir.
So, first thing, on the first slide, you talked about the synergistic staff that is of our disposal. So that would be the hiring person's disposal, right? So if when we hire someone, they have that access, correct? And is that like people that are in the area, or that's people at headquarters?
The individual that we would embed in your organization, this part-time energy specialist that we refer to, that's going to be an individual that we work with you in selecting. They will more than likely be local. We would prefer that they be local. We prefer that they be somebody that you maybe already know, somebody that maybe already has something to do with the district. In the 36 years that we've been doing this, the majority of the energy specialists that have been employed by our clients on a part-time basis, the majority of them have actually come from classrooms. They've been teachers that were looking for some type of part-time stipend to make more money, and they were going to utilize their hours when they're not teaching, and their weekends and holidays and things of that nature, because much of the work of an energy specialist is not done during the normal work hours. It's done early in the mornings or late in the evenings, or on, as I said, weekends or holidays, because that's where the majority of the energy use reduction is going to be achieved, is going to be during those days and times of the week when your facility should be sparsely occupied or unoccupied.
Okay, one more question, if I may?
Okay.
So, Lacey lends its facilities to a lot of different organizations in the school, especially in the summertime, indoors. So, let's say a basketball clinic comes in here and it's 85 degrees in there, kids are gonna pass out. It's gonna get hot. So if we should make the adjustment to make it a little bit cooler during that time, is that like a punishment to us? Or is that already factored into the numbers that we're working with?
It is, because every school district that we work with has to work with their community. They have a responsibility to more than just the Monday through Friday classroom hours. High schools in particular, it's not unusual to see them operating more along the lines of a 12-hour or more day, Monday through Friday. So, no penalization. What will happen, though, is that your energy specialist, with the assistance of synergistic, becomes intimately familiar with when these types of things are scheduled, so that we can ensure we're not turning things on any earlier than they have to be turned on, and they're being set back as soon after as they can reasonably be set back. Now, meet the expectations of your public.
So the energy specialist that we would hire, this one person, some science teacher.
Should be. I've seen
Well, I was a
students-
science teacher, so we'll take the science teacher.
You already have.
Is responsible for all 6 of our buildings?
Yes.
And they're gonna do that in their off time and still prepare? I mean,
I realize that sounds like it sounds very foreign. But again, we've been doing this for a long time. I've personally seen it work. I've actually gotten to play a direct role since being with the company in the implementation of probably around 700 or 800 of the nearly 1,500 programs that we've implemented over the years. And because of the nature of my job, which is I get to do everything, I've actually interviewed and hired probably somewhere around 100 or more of these part-time energy specialists that come to work for us. So I hear what you're saying. And we usually describe, I do anyway, when I'm interviewing one of these part-time specialists, we call them straight up. This isn't an 8 to 5, Monday through Friday type of job. You are going to be working at nights and weekends and holidays, and early mornings. And most of them are now too young to catch this. I used to use the old Peace Corps phrase. This will be the hardest job you ever loved. Especially during that first year, it is hard. There's a lot of hours. There's a lot that they're learning. There's a lot we're discovering about the facilities that nobody maybe knew about. As the program begins to gain traction over time, the number of hours, the intensity of the work for the specialist probably won't be as, should not be as intense for them in the latter years of the program as it's going to be, especially in those first couple of years.
I just want to make a comment on that part too. So when I was in Atlantic City, I did a training on the energy, and the woman that I spoke to, she was from Long Branch, and she's worked with Synergistic in the past. And the one thing that she also was talking about was when you start this program, you start building a team, and that could be teachers, could be students, kind of get everybody from the community and from the district involved. And one of the things she actually mentioned too was considering doing a stipend for teachers to become part of the energy team, using their time. So you're building a team as we go along as well.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because that brings up a facet that I think we had touched on in some of our other board presentations, but have left out in this condensed version. But there's an aspect of what we do that we call synergistic community, and it's designed to drive the conservation culture that we're trying to help lead, drive it into the classrooms, to the students in a way that could potentially will be taken home. That becomes critical. And this goes back to even the foundation of our program. We were founded by a school woman, by the way. But it was based on the need for inspection and accountability, and then for involvement, culture. Everyone, was kept aware of what the program was doing, and more importantly, they were kept aware of how they were impacting, whether they were a custodian, whether they were a senior staff member, a principal, or a teacher, and eventually even the students. They all understood how they were helping drive a reduction in energy usage, which translated into the district being better stewards of funds and energy in our environment. That's still very much what we're about today. The biggest difference between what we were 36 years ago and what we are in the last 5 to 8 years is that in addition to all of those things, especially the people in the process, we've now added a technology element. Because we used to say that managing facilities from an energy usage perspective was not rocket science. That's no longer true. A lot of digital controls, a lot of things but it is almost rocket science. So we've developed technology over the last few years that has been designed to help us find savings opportunities faster. It's been designed to give more transparency in almost real time to our clients about what's going on with the program. And there's elements of the software that are designed to help our clients make better decisions about some of the things that they are thinking about doing, whether it's purchasing something, or you were referring earlier to outside groups coming in and using facilities. This software is actually something that can be used in helping them understand what the cost is associated with allowing someone to do that. For some school districts, there's a charge to these outside organizations that come in, but they really had no way of really knowing how much to charge. We have software that's designed to help them know how to do that.
Anybody else? You mentioned software numerous times. Is there any extra cost for that software?
Yes, sir. It's actually a part of our synergistic program.
Fees included in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The app, us as board members, do we get to also download that app so we can actually witness ourselves the cost savings to 7 board members? We can go to our phone and say, hey,
Yes, sir.
we can have access to that app, user and password on an app?
Unless Dr. Ferrer says that you can.
Okay, no problem.
I'm kidding.
The biggest concern I have, and you said that scary word, is mold. I don't know what you're constructed of down in Texas area out there, what your buildings are constructed of, but majority of our buildings are masonry block with brick veneer. And the concern I have is with condensation factors. Being here on the Jersey Shore, our temperature ranges changes so much. And my biggest concern would be lowering the temperature to a certain temperature, then the temperature drops at night and not be able to recoup and come up. Now our units are working extra hard to catch up to it. We get a northeaster here, correct? Now we're cold on the outside, that cold has penetrated the block inside of the building, and now we're hitting hard with heat. Instead of keeping that average mean level point heat factor, or that temperature, I just have a concern with the up, down, up, down, up, down, because once you start up, down, there's where your condensation starts. And once your condensation starts, that's your mold issue there. That's a concern I have. The other concern I have is too, do we have backup generators here? We don't, right? On the buildings, that's what I'm saying, building generators, no. The other concern is in the winter, on the weekend in February, it's 35 degrees out, and you're a specialist, which are really not a specialist. You've used energy specialists numerous times in your conversations. They're not energy specialists until you train them.
Until we train.
So we're just hiring a person, so that's just gonna be an employee of ours until they become an energy specialist later. But the concern I have is the recoup time, because we have lost power during the winter in a snowstorm with the electric. And now we're at 55 degrees in February, correct? On a Saturday night. Now we lose power for 15 hours. The building wasn't at 70 or 75, it's down to 55 or whatever you guys take access control of to put it to. Now the recoup time is gonna be even longer. Now we got frozen pipes. Because we were 15 degrees cooler. Yeah, were we saving money? Yeah, but now it's gonna cost us, in the cleanup, is now we have frozen pipes, we couldn't have time to recoup back, to get our heat back on, because we were at such a low temperature, trying to save the money. I have a ton of questions, so if you want to answer each one individually, or you want me to stop, you want to take notes, how would you like to address it?
Because I lose, even though I'm making some notes, I'll forget what it was that I was doing.
Okay, no, that's it.
First of all, you're speaking of a lot of the things that keep us up at night, literally and figuratively. Let me go back to that energy specialist. You're right, the individual won't be a specialist until they're trained, and that training is virtually nonstop. We talk about the embedded energy specialist, but we probably haven't touched on that much, is the 40-some-odd folks that work for our company that live their life out of a suitcase 3 or 4 nights a week, that are on site with our clients and with our energy specialists, training them and helping them deal with some of these complex situations, such as you brought up. I know you haven't seen my credentials, but I got a little bit of alphabet soup behind my name, most of it associated with energy. One of those is certified indoor air quality professional. There are a few of us in the company. I'm definitely not one of the best, but I remember when I joined this company, my boss told me, there were 2 things that kept him up at night. One was making sure that the integrity of the data that we were reporting to our clients was in fact, accurate. And he said, number 2 was remote. As a result, our specialists are equipped at our expense with data loggers that are designed to help us monitor the things that we know can contribute to poor indoor air quality, specifically mobile. And we're not just looking at humidity, we're looking at that relationship between relative humidity, temperature, and more importantly, dew point. We know what a psychrometric chart looks like and the science behind what creates those things. So you bring up very, very valid points, and understand that is something that we've got to consider. You're right, a lot of Texas schools, in particular around where I live, mold's not a big issue. Certainly not out in West Texas, but we've got a ton of clients, along the coast of Texas, even out in California along the coast, not as bad there, just a different type of environment, more like Hawaii. Then you get into Louisiana, you get into Alabama, you get into Florida, you get up the East Coast, Georgia, the Carolinas. We deal with that a lot. And we know that facilities in those areas have to be managed a little different than the facilities in New Mexico or Arizona, where that's not an issue. You talked about, again, concerns about what happens if, an unexpected freeze comes in. We've experienced some of that as well. We're watching the forecast. We're looking for those forecasts that are indicating you've got a deep freeze coming. And your energy specialist will be tasked, and oftentimes with the help of some of our other consultants, our experts, again, that live their lives out of suitcases, trying to get ahead of those things. Making the decision that, okay, we know that we've got this deep freeze coming in, rather than setting back to 55 degrees, as we normally do, let's keep the temperatures up closer to 65 degrees, or maybe even warmer if we know that freeze is going to be that bad. And then that energy specialist is going to be out in those buildings, especially if it's on a weekend, looking for any damage that may be occurring that nobody knew about. They may be going around in some of your facilities where you may have some ceiling tiles and hallways where we've seen some problems, and popping some of those things off to the side so that a little bit of heat can get up into that plenum and keep some things from freezing. I'm going into a whole lot more detail than probably need to, and I apologize. I'm not a salesperson. I'm an old operations guy, and so what I'm sharing with you is some of my personal experience as well as what it is that the company does. The main thing I want to try to get across in all of this, if I've not answered your questions thoroughly in this regard, I want you to know I empathize with the concerns that you're voicing, because every one of them are legitimate.
5-year term negotiable?
No, sir, it's not. And our reason for that is because kind of twofold. First of all, we know from our experience, this thing takes time to really build and gain traction. First 3 years in particular are going to be the toughest for us. We're going to be dealing with turnover, we know that. But it's usually taking at least that long for the culture really to gain the traction that it needs to gain. And our efforts, from a company's perspective, are probably a lot more front-end loaded. Not probably, they are very front-end loaded in those first 3 years in particular, making sure that that program is gaining traction. Because they are so front-end loaded, I've got to also, and this is the second reason why it's got to be 5 years, I've got to be working for you for at least another couple of years in order for us as a company to also be making money. We'll be upside down as a company for the first 2 to 3 years that we're working on the program.
What if you just made the numbers more equal? Like instead of charging
That's certainly something that we can do, but what that would mean for the organization is that, instead of you're seeing, well over half of the gross savings netted to you, it would be well under that. But we can certainly try to flatline it. We're still, though, looking at the same cost associated. If we tried to make sure that all of our costs associated with implementing the program for maybe even a 3-year program were put into just those 3 years, I can't guarantee you that there would be a net return on the investment for you. And we don't want to sell you something that's just breaking.
Biggest concern I have as far as a contract. This entire contract is in your favor, and it's supposed to be. That's my business, right? The problem I have is I'm a contractor also, and I'm wired a little bit different when it comes to things like this, and it's hard to me to when I have my contracts with my clients and they want to negotiate or work with me, I'm going to work with them, say, hey, you know what I mean, or whatever. And it seems like there's no negotiation whatsoever in a contract. And usually there should be 2 people working together. There should be some type of negotiation here. The concern I have would be if we don't follow your directives to a T, then I don't know how you came to us. Did we find you or did you find us?
No, you were found.
Dr. Baza.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so, no, that's right, I'm sorry, that's right, recommend. The concern I have, the biggest concern I have is, and I've addressed it to our board president, and he said that it shouldn't be a problem. The concern I have is we're broke. We are, excuse my mouth, we are pissed, we're broke right now,
I think
right?
you mentioned in our call that
Right,
we're looking at
we're
$2
hurt.
million
And my biggest concern is you're gonna come in and say, you know what, guys? We're gonna save you this, and this, but we need to take over your buildings. And it says right here in section 1, letter C. Oh, wait. Section 1, letter F, about you guys coming over and changing our infrastructure. The concern I have is if you say, hey guys, and we know it, the HVAC system in this building is from 1982 and needs to be updated. But when you come to us and say, listen, the only way we're going to save you $85,000 a year is if you change your HVAC unit. We know for a fact we don't have the money to do that. So when you're telling us, hey guys, we're saving you money, then you say, you know what? We told you to do this, and you're not. And we come back and say, guys, we're not saving any money. What's going on? You know what I mean? You're like, well, we told you guys, Lacey School Board, we said, hey, you need to change your HVAC system. It's way outdated. It's not economical or efficient enough. You know what I mean? We're like, and you didn't do that. We want our money. You didn't follow our contract.
This is where you have, okay, you state that the contract, leaves no room for negotiation. I know that's not the way exactly that you put it. What you have is the contract in its basic form. There are some things that we're not going to negotiate, such as the term of the agreement. We won't negotiate the fee because we priced it as low as we can price it, as a company and be able to do what we need to do. But first of all, we are a company that is focused on driving your energy use reduction through optimizing the way you're using what you currently have. We're not going to come in and tell you that if you don't replace this HVAC system or upgrade this particular system, that you will be in violation of your contract as it relates to substantial implementation of our recommendations, because our recommendations are going to be focused first and foremost on the things that we can do better with what you already have. That said, if you want to know what you think could help, if you were to have found money to spend on a repair or an upgrade or a replacement, we've got software that'll help you run the ROI on that, but it will never be presented to you as something you have to do that, or you're in violation of the contract. And if we need to clarify that in the contract.
If you can put that, what words you just spoke
Yeah.
in writing, that would make,
Yeah.
make me a little more comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
if I get it.
I just jumped in there,
understand
so
what you're saying.
I just, I just want to touch on what you said, and just remind everybody here, the numbers you're seeing up there are based on the previous 12 months of our utility bills as currently as our buildings stand, correct?
So it's current infrastructure.
This is all current infrastructure fees, so the money we're net saving is $730,000 based on what we currently have. And like I told you.
Oh, the systems we have,
Yes.
the windows we have,
Everything. This
the
is
doors we
based-
have,
this is
the R
everything.
factor on our walls we
Everything,
have,
yeah.
our
This is-
ceiling, drop ceiling, it's not insulated, in our hallways.
Yeah, so everything you're seeing up here is based on our 12 months previous as our infrastructure stands as it is, and that's still a net savings of $730. We know there's things that are gonna have to be changed somewhere down the road when we get money or whatever, and that's, the board's gonna do that when appropriately, and that's going to change.
Can we strike 1F then out of the contract?
That's,
working with the attorney.
yeah, so those you don't know, and I did tell Skip, so our attorney, Bruce, has reviewed the contract. He has a lot of suggestions and things he would like to see amended or more of a mutual understanding. So at this point, and explain, so at this point, if as a board, we decide to move forward with them, we wouldn't until our attorney sits down with them and says, hey, we'd like to see this, this, and this, and this. Okay, so I just have a question if I can, because there's a bunch of.
Yeah, I have a question.
So, yeah, I'll give it to you.
Go ahead.
So, thank you. One thing I have a question with, I think you kind of touched on it. So, are you going to work, your specialists, your folks, and I guarantee your specialist is gonna be a specialist for a while. You're gonna have people kind of overseeing whoever he or she is that's here. Are you going to suggest, as far as our functioning, the way we do things around here, is there going to be with our facilities managers and our BA, why this, you should do this?
Yes.
Not as far as changing infrastructure, but the way we're doing things, and that's what this is all about, correct? Because I know that I walk around at night, walking my dog 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I see a lot of computers on and screens on in our schools, and the rooms are lit up, and I'm like, that's a lot of wasted energy. A lot of hallways lit up and there's nobody in them. So, these suggestions are going to be with the specialist to our facilities manager, correct?
Yes, and to as much of a degree as Dr. Pereira and the staff would allow it, the energy specialist dealing directly with maybe a teacher, or certainly dealing with a principal when they see, something that you as a district adopt as a guideline. And a guideline might be, we're gonna all remember to turn our lights off and turn our computers off, at the end of the day. An energy specialist is going around and inspecting to ensure that that's being, abided by. They see an infraction of it, they want to deal with it, first at the lowest level, maybe say something to the teacher, if you would, remember to turn those off, or to set this back, or whatever. If it continues to be ignored, then maybe it escalates to the principal. And in the worst case, maybe they're going to maintenance director or to Dr. Pereira.
So, Ed, you?
Yeah, Sharon, do we have any plans for infrastructure improvement in terms of boilers or heating or
Yeah, so
air
that is
conditioning?
something I wanted to mention too, so when, they talk about their software and their specialists, that's something that I think will benefit us as well in the future, because we are going to start talking referendum, because we have to start talking referendum, and they would be a great outside source to give us recommendations on what to improve and where to improve.
Yeah,
We don't want to
and
lose
I
our
was
solar.
looking at it I was looking at the same thing from the opposite point of view. That's right.
One
No,
more
I'm
question,
thinking that
Sharon.
if we were going to go out and do that, and we wanted to really, if these people weren't standing here right now, and we weren't considering them, I just got to think for JCP&L for institutions, where they'll do free surveys and do all that.
That's
And I would
actually-
say, gee, well, if we're gonna get new equipment, why don't we bring them in? And so, I mean, we would be bringing in somebody anyway, and then I'm looking at, wait a minute, is that gonna become part of our savings that then we're literally paying for? Now we're paying for our own savings. Because if we go and get better equipment, that fee in the third year, say when it's being done of $137,000 that we're paying out, because we would have been saving enough to qualify, it's like, wait, we've been saving it anyway. So, that's where I get lost. When I realized that JCP&L will do something very similar, and then a little, if we could get our administration to talk to our teachers and be serious about it, and turn off the lights and turn off everything, we could be doing all these things. So I'm just looking at, okay, you're a management company that's gonna do what we should be doing. So why don't we do what we should be doing?
And that's the question that you can ask in every school district, every government institution, almost every household in this country, and including my own. I mean, I'm an energy specialist when all is said and done, and yet I have problems operating my house consistently in a way that is optimizing energy usage, because I'm not the only one that lives in my house. And I have to influence the other individual there sometimes to get on board with it. But she ain't on board with it when I'm, in New Jersey. And not I'm being a little facetious, but I hear what you're saying.
I understand.
It sounds like it should be common sense, what we're talking about doing. But this is, again, where what we've discovered is that without this process of inspection and accountability and the rigor associated with, someone being held accountable and everyone, adopting this as a culture, it doesn't happen. Or if it does happen, it usually doesn't last long. I've only run into 2 school districts in my 19 years where, after looking at where they were at and what they were doing, I said, there's nothing that I can substantially do for them, because they were doing everything that we did, and it was great. I can't tell you that they're still doing it today, but they were the anomalies. And that's no indictment of anybody else. It's almost a human nature thing. The other thing you mentioned, though, again, a very, very valid question, is what if someone offers you some free advice, gives you, comes in and does some inspections and tells you that if you'll do this, if you'll do that, you'll be able to reduce your energy use. I say take advantage of anything anybody's talking about giving you for free. If you're talking about somebody coming in and saying, okay, we're going to tell you that you need to upgrade, your insulation, or you need to change out this boiler system or this HVAC system, and by nature of those things, you're going to use less energy. If you can do those things, do those things. Understand if you're doing them while engaged with synergistic, we won't take credit for those things. Again, there's a science behind knowing what those improvements should do for you. We back those things out of what we would claim to be savings associated with the synergistic program.
If I could just add on that, so Ed, and I remember when the first presentation you gave to us, what you're saying is, well, why don't we do it ourselves? If I'm not mistaken, your first business plan was to get people set up and get them to a point and say, okay, now you're on your own, and walk away, correct? But you realize that these people, after 5 years, you set them free from the nest, and they reverted back to their old system, and it just didn't work. So that's why you change your corporate structure to say, we want to make it a lifelong career to stay with you, because we know, based on what we've had in the past, people revert back to what they're doing.
But
You
it's
know.
not, it's just 5 years. And
No, I understand that, but,
Yeah.
but
But
again,
then they take the program, and then we can't hire this person for 2 years.
no, what I'm saying is that
You know
they
what I'm
changed
saying?
their structure because they found that people, when they left, that they would go back to where they were. So it'd be something where you say, you know, we want to continue on with our relationship for another couple of years.
Right, but my point was a little
I know,
different.
but then it says.
Same idea, but we know we're gonna be making those changes.
No, I understand,
He did answer.
Yeah, he did. No, I did, I know he did. But again, the way I look at it is, you know, we're gonna make some minor changes to new HVAC, this, that, and the other thing, but it's more than just changing of, it's more of an attitude change.
No longer the same statistic, or for a Long Branch School District, not the same just.
So it's like having kids in timeout, as long as you're there making sure you're doing a timeout, they're gonna do what you're told them to do. The minute you walk away, they're gonna go back to their own habits.
So,
Yeah.
So Sharon, there's a conversation going on back here that I think everybody needs to hear, and that is specifically about the energy specialist and the example that you had in Long Branch.
Right, so Kim is saying in the contract that after the 5 years, the energy specialist that we've hired, we can't keep on as an employee if we terminate, we don't continue the contract with you. I say that's not true, because when I spoke with Long Branch, the energy specialist they had, they no longer have their contract with you, still works for them, but it's their employee.
Right, if the current wording of the contract gives you the impression that you're gonna have to fire your internally employed, energy specialist, then let's clear up that contract language so that you're not worried with that.
Well-
What we're not going to allow an energy specialist to do is to taking proprietary technology that we've developed.
Sure, 100%.
And keep it, to use it, but anything that has been taught them that could be argued to be in the general public domain, you know, absolutely
So
continue to do.
it's a ruthless world out there, and I'm just throwing a scenario out there. We hire an energy specialist on a part-time basis, comes in, and his first year he saves Lacey Township Schools $200,000. He goes, wow, they trained me, synergistic trained me, I did this. Oh, by the way, Lacey, see you later, it's my 6-day notice, see you later, bye. And quits. And goes a half mile down the road to Southern Regional High School and says, hey guys, why don't you hire me full-time for $100,000 a year? I'm a trained guy. I mean, do they sign a no-compete clause?
That's exactly what they do.
Okay.
They have to sign that with us.
With you guys?
That's exactly right. Non-compete
No
and
non-compete.
non-disclosure agreement.
And
Right.
they could leave.
Right.
We
And the next-
hire them, we have to-
Remember this, they may be able to
Well,
tell you,
that's-
they
I'm
may
sorry,
be
sir.
able to turn the thermostat up and down, but what they don't have is the analysis that
Right.
corporate.
Well, the other question I have is, let's say we do have our employee, and you guys train him for 1 year, and God forbid he says, hey, you know what, guys? We had a day last 2 weeks here, 3 weeks, okay? Sorry, guys, been here a year, this ain't for me. I'm not liking it. I relieve you my nights and weekends. I can't go around. I don't want to do this anymore. And they quit. Now we have to hire another employee, correct? Now they're not trained. And is there another fee now? Is there a separate fee now? They're training a separate employee? There is an extra fee?
No, there's
Oh, there
no
isn't?
fee for training the new person.
It becomes a real pain for not just, more for synergistic than it is for the district. If your part-time energy specialist were to leave, then we've got to work real quick to try to get another energy specialist in place.
Do you give us someone until that point?
That's exactly what
And that's
we
your
plan to do.
employee?
That is one of
That
our.
we have to pay?
Actually, nothing, no additional cost.
Okay.
That's why I say it becomes very problematic for us. It means that, you know, probably several of these 40-some-odd folks that we have, you know, end up trying to come in and fill that gap, that vacancy on a temporary period, trying to make sure that we don't lose any ground for sure, and that your facilities continue to be managed. Now, also keep in mind, though, that while all of this is going on, while we're training up this energy specialist and developing this program, we're not doing it, you know, in a corner. We're working very, very closely with your existing maintenance and operations staff. Before, you know, all is said and done, they're almost going to look at us as an extension of them, which is exactly the way we want them to look at us. And they will have been learning so much about what it is that we do and how we do things. So even then, when an energy specialist is gone, between the partnership of the synergistic employees that are coming in to try to fill the gap and your existing maintenance and operations team who are now more on board with what's going on with energy conservation, we keep things going. Now, I will tell you this, there have been some occasions in the past when it took us longer to find somebody than what we expected. And in some of those cases, what we did was we stopped fees for as much as 90 days until we felt good about the new person that we brought on board and the job that they would do. So, that's not written into your contract, but I'm telling you that, we've done that in the past.
Can I ask one question? So what's the common tenure for a person in this role? Do you find that they stay to 5 years, or do you find that 2-3 guys to complete the 5 years?
Most of them last the 5 years and on. It's relatively rare that you have an energy specialist quit midstream. Now, that was something that kept us up at night quite a bit during these last couple of years, and this great resignation that was taking place. We saw a little bit of an uptick in turnover, but not to the degree that I think you hear about in the media.
How many days is your training? I have a few questions. How many days is the training?
There's some formal training that we take them to in Dallas for a week. Actually, it's 6 days.
We pay for that?
No, that's
Your
out of
hotel,
Yeah,
airfare,
yeah,
everything?
we take care of all that. And then all the rest of the training is predominantly, all in predominantly, virtually all of the rest of the training is done here on site with our folks alongside your embedded energy specialist.
So our employee would come to you guys for 6 days, 6 days training,
Yeah.
then come back, and then your specialist would come with our apprentice,
Yep. And
correct?
And right.
Work with them one-on-one. For how long?
We will-
Until they feel comfortable and they cut them loose, or?
You're not cut loose for as long as you're paying us money. We're gonna be here, throughout the 5 years of the program.
No. How long does your employee come back with our apprentice?
Side by side.
Side by side with them. It may be for a few days each week for the next few months. The concentration of our employees' time on site here is heavier at the beginning, and it begins to wane over time, but we never completely go away. And there is no set number of days that we're going to be in or not be around. It's really driven by what we're seeing as the needs of the client. We're a very numbers-driven organization because, our reputation's on the line. We're telling you, that we're going to gross, what is that, $1.3 million of savings there. And we've got a reputation to maintain. That's the reason we continue to get customers. And, most of our customers are, the range is between 94 and about 108%, is the range that most are seeing in achieving, those projections. We watch it like a hawk. And when we see somebody's numbers not doing what they need to be doing, that usually means we've got more of our staff out here on the ground, working with the specialist, finding out if they're doing something wrong or if we're missing something.
Do you have one question?
I do, yeah. Okay, so the specialist you're saying is gonna put a lot of time in. My concern is that if we hire a part-time person, but now we need them for 40 hours, now they become full-time, now we're paying their benefits. It just seems like a big job for someone who's working 30 hours a week and not getting benefits, holiday pay, or whatever, I just don't want it to turn into a full-time position, because,
I hear you say that, and that's again, a very valid concern too. We do have some clients, in Millville, we're in the process of closing, the board's voted.
Millville, you said?
But they've actually talked about as opposed to placing a part-time individual. They're gonna hire somebody full-time, because they want that person also helping with something else related in their school district. And we're fine with that, as long as they know that, we're going to guarantee, a portion of that full-time salary as part of their synergistic investment. And as long as they know that at least initially, that individual is primarily focused on the energy conservation.
Just to jump on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, if it is overwhelming for a person here, are you opposed to say, hey, could we split that and have 2 part-timers and train 2 people to do the same job?
We've done that. It certainly increases your cost. It increases our exposure from the standpoint of what we need to guarantee, because we're guaranteeing that your investment's going to be covered. Personally, I've not seen where having to hire 2 part-time specialists was ever needed for a school district this size. But you're bringing up valid points. We're going to work them hard, for sure, especially that first year.
So what, I just want to be clear of what I'm looking at. So you're saying the first year, let's just say our bills are, I'm just going to say $1 million, okay, we pay $1 million. So the first year, you're going to say, well, we're going to save 193. Going into the second year, it's an additional 252?
No, it's not an additional.
Oh.
We're saying that we're constantly measuring them against a baseline.
So
That baseline will be, the 12-month period preceding the start of this program, or what the district agrees is a good baseline to use. Because it's possible that the immediate 12 months preceding might have been impacted by some major anomaly, like COVID, that could cause us to want to look at a bigger set of years in expense in order to establish what should be a good relative baseline.
All right, so now I'm more confused, but let's just say we save 108 the first year. The second year, what are we saving additionally to the 108? Are we saving 30,000?
No, you're saving
no, I'm not.
59,000 additional.
So, but I've asked this question a few times, and they're saying, no, it's an additional 130,000, an additional 151, but that's not the case.
No, it's only an additional 59,000, because you're going from 193 to 252, so it's 52 plus 7.
So we're not.
It's
Right, so, but then
$59,000
we're
more.
truly not, we're not saving all that money.
You're not
Because we
increasing-
cut it the first year. So,
Right.
to
Right.
me, I see what you're
From the
I
next
get it.
year to the next
I
year,
get
it's
it.
only 25.
25,000.
Yeah.
But that's not what I was told, because I asked this a couple times, and I've been told it's an additional 200.
Yes,
He said that in the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I was-
We add it all up, it's 1.3.
No, but it's not, Sharon, because you're saying, you guys keep talking revenue, but the revenue, it's, so we have 1 year, great, that 1 year is done. Now we're at year 2. So we have to start at that base number. So let's just say we're at now 900,000, because we saved 100,000, or whatever it is. So it really, we're only saving another, 50, 60,000. We're not saving what it's looking like. Yes, it's a 5-year program, but we're only saving a chunk of it the first year. And then it's an additional 60, an additional 20,000, an additional 20,000. Look at the numbers.
So-
That, I just want to make sure, because I've asked this question a few times, I'm getting different answers. So,
Let me run through it one more time. I
Okay.
apologize if I've caused you confusion. But what you're doing is you're measuring the way you're performing in year 1, that's what we call a performance year, against a baseline, which is pre-program, pre-synergistic. We're saying that you will gross in savings 193,000 against that baseline.
year 1.
In
Gotcha.
year 1. In year 2, you will gross against that same baseline 252,000.
Okay, it's out there, right. So I get that, but that's not what I was told a few times when I asked people year, because I was told, no, it's an additional 252, an additional 277. That's not the case. So I think
The
This
first year, we're saving
presentation-
193, the second year,
we're only saving an additional
Little.
60,000.
right,
Not 252.
right.
So, which it's still savings, I'm not saying it's not savings, but it's not what it presents, and that's where I'm having a hard time, because I sat with these numbers and I'm like, well, wait a minute, how can we be saving $300,000 on the 5th year when we should be banging this out on the 1st year? And I get the theory of your whole 5-year plan, but really, so we keep talking revenue, but it's not revenue because the money's gone. So we're now at another number, we're at 900,000. So it's not revenue. It's not 252. Yes, it's cost savings, but it's not that much. I just think it's a big undertaking for 37,000. We're paying someone 37,000. I think if we tried,
I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
looking at it from a point of view of budgeting, we're the
Right,
finance
budget,
committee,
yes.
okay? So the first year, we're looking at, we're gonna save 193 off of what we budgeted. But next year, when we
no, only
budget.
108, because we have.
Oh, yeah, we're only gonna save 180.
Right.
So, but next year, when we budget,
You can only
we
budget.
can't use the old figure, we
No.
have to use this figure, so then we're
Correct.
gonna save 30.
Well, that's an estimate.
Be-
That's an
Could be
estimate.
based on the estimate. So-
Right. You
So,
missed the-
so
you
then the
left the
following
part.
year, you're on, because you can only budget.
What they're saying
Yeah,
is
yeah.
we can't be.
We have to budget on the zero basis.
Over the 5 years, based on the way that they're saying.
That's the way I always learned it.
$30,000 or less that you would have spent had you not implemented.
Right.
Right, that's not what they're
It's
saying.
not savings, it's,
No, I understand what you're saying,
It's
and from the
based-
beginning of the time you started here and from the end, but it's not a traditional, like, if we're doing our budget every year, so then we can only budget a savings of an extra 50 grand, that's it,
I
for
don't-
the year after.
Yeah, I don't want to muddy the waters with this analogy, but, you know, I may. Let's say we were an equipment company. And what we told you is we're going to install equipment, HVAC systems or whatever, that will reduce your costs in year one by $193,000.
Yes.
Okay. How much will it reduce your costs in year two?
But that's not what,
But with the 193, you forgot your fee and you forgot the labor that we're paying for our employees.
So,
Right.
so let's just say that it saves you just $180,000, that piece of equipment. After you pay for it, make payments on the equipment, it saves you a net of $180,000. How much does that piece of equipment save?
but that's not how we operate here, because we operate year to year. We can't look back, we have to stay where we are and move forward every year. So we can't say, oh, we bought, this desk 20 years ago, but it's still saving us money because we didn't buy a new desk. Like, that's
what
over.
this is.
So that's what it is.
I know, so I'm having a hard time with it because I feel like this amount that you're telling us we're saving, we're truly not, because we're only really saving, we are saving 108, but then we're only saving another 60, which is great, another 20, another 20, another 18. So if you look at it that way, is that true? Am I reading it correctly? Kind of?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
Sharon, real quick question, and I'm sorry, I can't remember this, but when I was on the facilities committee and finance, what was that term that Pat used that said we had to escrow so much money for our buildings in that account? Which account is that? The state makes us put money aside each year out of our budget. How much do we have in that right now? Do we know? Baseball. For doing upgrades of the school. The state comes in and says to us, hey, you can't spend on your money this, you gotta maintain your buildings, you gotta come up to date. I don't know if you know this or not, Sal.
Well,
The state says you have to have so much money in
Not just so
escrow.
much, but then you're also not allowed to have more
Than a certain
amount.
amount.
Right.
And
But we changed that to go up. We voted to go up on that, ours.
Well, yeah, we vote on that every year.
Right.
We have to put money into it every year, we can spend money out of it every year.
can we do that at the end of the school year when we finish our audit, right?
right, we see how much we have left. So we have money.
I mean, this is basically a plan that it works on its own. It's basically telling someone when to change their diaper and we're gonna get incremental costs. No, it's not 193 one year and 250,000 the next year.
Right.
It is small incremental growth, but it's a step in the right direction. And maybe if we just start changing the behavior around here, culture-wise, in simple things like Skip always talked about, turning on the light, turning off the light, turning off the computers. Maybe in knowing all this, we start to invest in the sensors that you're always talking about, and having a budget then, and now, after 5 years, or maybe even before 5 years, $20,000 could become $60,000, because we have an analysis, a real analysis of what our culture looks like energy-wise. So it's a $37,000 investment, basically, to tell everybody to change their freaking diaper or change their underwear, whatever way you want to put it. But
Right, are you willing to give up
basically
control
telling
of the
people what to do.
utilities for that? That's
Huh?
the point. Are you willing to give up control of the utilities?
We're not really giving up
No,
control
we
of
are.
the utility.
We're not.
We're hiring someone to tell someone, turn the light off, turn the light on, or if they don't do it, he's gonna walk around and make sure the lights are off and the computers are off. We still own our energy, we still own our infrastructure.
We don't have control. It says it in the contract. Sal, it says it in the contract.
Good
I don't know
question.
that to be worded differently, more along the lines of what he's saying.
I guess I'm just reading what it says.
Because what we're not going to do is come in and tell you that, you know, we're going to set temperatures at this no matter what. And we're going to turn things off at such and such times, no matter what you think. We don't do that. And if the contract language needs to be clarified so as to make that, so if we bring that up, I've made sure that that's brought up as you.
I guess
as you read on
it's
this.
still
Yeah.
unclear of really what you're.
They're providing a service.
No, I know what they're doing. No, the substantially performing its responsibilities. Like, to me, and you explained it, but I still don't really understand it, because what does that mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And there's not a way to list it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What would be, what would constitute all the potential elements that would be substantial implementation? It's sort of, again, the reason why we don't use the word complete, because complete or total would mean that, yep, you are agreeing to have to do everything that we said. But an example of substantial implementation is that you're gonna work with us, you're gonna buy into this concept that we need to establish a policy, maybe some guidelines around what the expectations are, that we're going to shoot for, turning things off as soon as they can be turned off, setting things back as soon
Call
as
those
they can be set back.
non-negotiables.
You bet.
Yeah, but that should be written in the contract, and it's,
Well, and
that's
again,
what
like
the
we said,
guarantee.
there's a lot of,
Yeah.
our lawyer said there's a lot of ambiguities that he would like to see
Yeah.
change. So I think at this point, what we need to do is.
Bruce has to say,
Right, I think the biggest thing right now is we have to decide whether or not, okay, is this something we want to explore further? And if we're gonna go with it, then we dig into the contract and work out the language and stuff like that. And I have to agree with you one thing, and I told you that those were were the thing. I was led to believe that, yes, it's 108, 138, 151, so that's what I understood it to be. So, but,
No, it doesn't add up that
No.
way. It doesn't.
yeah.
If you spent $252,000 less,
All right, folks. Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you spent $252,000 less or net, after expensive, you spent $138,000 less in utilities than you did in the base year, that's $138,000 you saved.
In addition to the 108.
Right, and the growth is 30. And the growth is 30.
The growth is 30.
Okay, that's where the confusion's coming in. I guess.
No, what I think they're saying is,
I
what,
understand what they're saying.
right, they're thinking that we're saving 193 and 252. We're not. We're only saving an extra 30, that's second year 2.
But that's what we were told.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I understand.
But it is, it's added.
Okay,
Of course,
we-
the agreement
we
is
beat that.
$730,000.
We beat it to death.
Okay, the horse is dead. Let's move on to a new horse. I have a quick question, and it should be really simple, but just to pick figures out of the air or dates out of the air, if we were to sign a contract on January 1st, when does the 48,000 due?
It would be due in January of that month.
So you pay the full 48?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, no. That 48,000 is paid out on a monthly basis.
4,000 per month?
Yes, sir.
That was my first question.
Okay.
And if, at the end of the year, on December 31st, the figures then are, we have the figures for the year, how long is the analysis and the payback if we don't make the savings?
True up for most organizations is probably going to be somewhere around 2 months. And that's because you don't get, well, let's say December 31st is the end date. You don't have all of your December bills in from your utility providers until sometime towards the end of January. So it might be in February before.
End of February, we say no later. The reason I say is because it affects the budgeting.
Yes.
And our budget period where we would need to know what the return is going to be would be probably by the end of March, we would know.
And if you reimburse us the first year, does that void the contract? Are we done?
No.
Okay. But you're gonna try again the second year to save us money?
Yes, sir.
And if you don't, you're gonna write us back a check again the second
That's
year?
correct. Now, in full disclosure, we've written, maybe a dozen checks, 36 years we've been in business, the 19 years since I've been with them. We've only written one. And I'm intimately familiar with that one because I helped see that it was written. In all of those dozen cases or so, the checks were written. They were written in association with the first year. We didn't have to write a check. We've written no checks for second, third, fourth, and fifth.
My question wasn't based on expecting you not to succeed. It was for budgeting purposes.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Does anybody have any other questions that they want to discuss in that session?
Guys, I apologize. I love talking about what we do. I realize that I talk probably way too much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Do me a favor. Just promise you one thing. Are you flying out of Philly Airport tomorrow? Don't wear your Texas stuff. I'm pre-warning you. You give us advice, I'm giving you advice. Where are you staying tonight? Where are you staying tonight?
Airport near
Are you gonna go watch the game? Oh, okay. I'm gonna say, don't. Well, if you do watch the game, don't cheer on. Just sit there.
Oh, no, I have the calculations on going back. Oh, my, no, this too. I don't know what's going on. I'm so not, yeah, you're adjourning.
Not yet.
No, you should.
They just started with around the first of
Mary Ellen, is this yours?
We're still recording.
You're done?
I don't think.
Yes, we're recording, we're still having a meeting.
Yes, we're still recording.
We have to do an adjournment.
We gotta do an adjournment.
No, wait, is it ringing?
Yes, it's
Yes.
still recording.
I didn't know the camera was trying to turn this flashlight
Yeah,
off.
we're still in
Sorry,
meeting.
let's go.
Forget it.
Cool.
Okay, being that, thank you all for participating. I thank Lynn and Mary Ellen for coming out, and risking their lives going out of Philly tomorrow. But, Lynn, don't talk, okay? Whatever you do, don't talk.
Just say your R's.
Just nod.
I just hope you're not flying.
You have to learn, say, I'm not with him. Okay, at this, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to take a motion for adjournment.
Motion Peters.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're out of here.
Go Birds.
Thank you, folks.